Hello everybody, I am Carl and welcome to my review. In a new series reviewing the Batman movies, I review the first of the modern Batman films with Batman 1989. This movie has to be looked at from a range of perspectives. Now it's easy to look back with comic book knowledge and other good dark Batman material in other media and see all the problems. But back in 1989, this movie was a revolution. In the wake of media attention around The Dark Knight Returns, The Killing Joke and Death in the Family, this film was the calling card to show people that Batman was no longer the Silver Age Batman of the 60s television show. Superman was a hit, but it had been seen as a one-hit wonder. This movie showed otherwise. It brought around a new age on which mainstream understanding that Batman was a creature of the night, and it made more comic fans that summer than probably any other film. I can also look at it as a film and see all the plot holes and flaws, and I can look at it as a knowledgeable and avid Batman fan who has read and watched more of this character than any other paper icon. I will bring all three into my review, but I'll rely more on the last two since nostalgia and hyperbole are subjective, and I think as a kid who was born a year before this movie came out, I don't have much such attachments. Okay, so we begin in Gotham where Batman is a fairly new but established Avenger who exists mainly as hearsay and urban legend. Also, a family are mugged in the first scene but not killed. This is a nice red herring that it might be Batman's origin, but also serves as a nice contrast to it. One reporter, Alexander Knox, is the only one who believes the stories and is universally knocked for it. That is until Vicky Vale, a photographer, shows up to work with him on the case. In doing so, they go to a charity fundraiser at Wayne Manor and meet the reserved and bizarre-behaving Bruce Wayne. They are also rebutted and laughed off by Commissioner Gordon and Harvey Dent. Gordon is pulled aside and told that mob boss Carl Grissom has sent his hitman Jack Napier to clean out Access Chemicals, which has some sort of paperwork which will incriminate Grissom's operation. Unknown to them, it's a setup, as Grissom has tipped off police because Jack is sleeping with his mistress. The police show up as planned, but so does Batman, as Wayne learns of this through watching footage of the conversation in his manor, and the crooks are quickly taken care of, save Napier himself, who after a struggle is accidentally dropped into acid. I must note here that it's good that Batman tries to save him, but it's in stark contrast to his behaviour later on in the film. Did he just try and save him because he needed to testify for the cops against Grissom? During all this, a double-taking stooge who has helped set this all up between Grissom and the cops, Lieutenant Eckhart, is shot. Eckhart looks like he should be Harvey Bullock, but isn't, which is kind of weird. But that character wasn't as prominent until his appearance in the 90s series. Gordon and his men also see Batman with their own eyes for the first time, and their perspective and reactions to him are some cool moments. But Napier survived his acid bath and after a really cool and creepy surgery scene takes the form of the Joker. He shoots Grissom and takes over his empire. Anyone getting in his way is promptly electrocuted or gunned down. During all this, Bruce Wayne started dating Vicky Vale, sleeps with her, and then promptly lies to her, blanks her, and just concentrates on the fact that he knows Napier is the Joker. An incident where Joker kills a bunch of mob bosses is blamed on Batman, and this pisses off Joker, so he starts poisoning beauty products to kill everyone in Gotham. Batman cracks this, gives the formula to the police through Vale, and starts being thought of as perhaps a force for good. Joker, meanwhile, gets the hot Vale because, well, she's the lead female, I guess, and tries to recruit/injure her, but Batman saves her and fights off all of Joker's goons. Alfred starts to tell Bruce that maybe he should tell Vicky the truth because he likes her a lot, after one night, and he agrees and goes to tell her the whole thing when Joker comes in and stops the moron for now, shooting him after he gets a bit wild. Turns out he was just using a tray as a shield. Joker threatens Vale some more and then just leaves. Okay. Bruce then has a flashback of his parents' death where he realises the killer was Jack Napier, aka the Joker, and while he's busy in Dreamland, Alfred has let Bruce's girlfriend of about a week into the cave to see him. Although, to his credit, Vicky did figure out Bruce might have been Batman by finding out about his parents' murder. Might have. This all leads to Joker hijacking the airwaves, telling all of Gotham that he will dump millions of dollars on them at midnight in celebration of Gotham's 200th anniversary. And the police don't show up to arrest this madman who tried in some cases succeeded at mass murder because he says he isn't a killer. Batman shows up in the Batwing because because he needs to fly in front of the moon, make a poster, get rid of the poisonous balloons, and then shoot everything he has at the Joker, and miss. Meanwhile, Joker, without high ground or a crosshair, manages to take the plane down with a long handgun. Yup. He then sees Vicky Vale, decides he wants to kidnap her this time, and takes her up onto the roof of the cathedral. Batman survived the burning wreck of a plane crash somehow, and follows. When he gets there, Vicky and Joker are dancing, and Joker's henchmen show up out of nowhere, and Batman proceeds in murdering them in cold blood. That'll teach him to show up out of thin air. Oh, and I forgot! He blew up Joker's hideout to access chemicals, killing most of the other henchmen, and trying to kill the Joker, but he wasn't there. Back to Phantom of the Opera, the climax. Vicky sees Batman and distracts Joker by going to give him a blowjob, but Batman is there and punches Joker in the face. Joker has a few visual gags, but that doesn't stop Batman from beating the hell out of him, while the two are split back and forth on how they created each other, the chicken and the egg argument, blah blah blah. Batman punches Joker over a wall to the long floor below, but Joker hangs on, grabs their arms, and sends them over to Hank there instead. He tries to kill them by stomping on their hands when the helicopter shows up, and instead of ordering them to shoot Batman and the woman he was interested in only moments ago, he decides to just leave. But just when you're thinking sequel, Batman throws a grapple hook onto Joker's leg and hooks him to a gargoyle, and the weight of it makes Joker fall to his death. Batman then swings Vicky to safety, and after a ceremony where the cops deduce that by killing Joker, and as a murdering vigilante, he is fit to work with them and debuts the bat signal. Vicky is driven off by Alfred, and Batman is standing up on the rooftops looking out over his city. Okay, so I'll give some of my likes and problems with it in the review sarcastically, but let's go in depth here. Alright, so characters. First, Michael Keaton as Batman Bruce Wayne. Let's first look at Wayne. He acts strange, throws social functions, but spends most of his time brooding in a cave and shifting around weirdly downtown. How does nobody figure out that he's Batman? I mean, it took a photographer, a week? To figure it out, just by finding out that his parents were killed and putting two and two together. From a movie standpoint, Bruce Wayne works as a psycho-scarred weirdo, but we don't see enough of him to get really deeper. But from the standpoint of a comic fan, this is not Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is a public figure playboy who puts people off the fact he's Batman by acting goofy and airheaded as possible. Even from a character standpoint, it just simply isn't logical. You could argue that the way he treats Vicky Vale early on is very Bruce Wayne, but you don't get the sense that he wants just a date and a sex. He actually likes her. But after Alfred gives him the worst advice I've ever seen, he's ready to tell her that he's Batman. After a few days and one night together. What? Also, the fact that he wears glasses is just silly. This guy sees in the dark, for God's sakes. What is the glasses for? This is Bruce Wayne, not Clark Kent. As for Batman, he's pretty good. Keaton plays the voice great, and in the first scene, and really for the first two acts, it is pure Batman. But the last act is where it all falls apart. Up until this point, he hasn't killed a single thug, but then he just starts throwing them off tall buildings and shooting missiles at people. Now, an argument for this is that Burton was going for the 1939 Batman who did kill and use guns, but that was 1 year out of a 50-year at that point career. By that logic, Batman's Batmobile should have been a Red Beetle. In my opinion, the problem with the last act is all Burton. It's been let out that the last act was heavily rewritten from Sam Hamm's original script by Warren Saccharine under Burton's direction. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Hamm's original script didn't include the plot holes and the character problems in the last act, including Batman as a carefree murderer. However, the fact that he did crack Joker's poisonous code is a nice bit of detective work for, the world's greatest detective. Alright, so Jack Nicholson as the Joker, the true star of the show. Now, while I have to agree that he's a bit too old and beefy for the Joker at this point, for the way that us comic fans see him, he does give a great joke here. Sure, his motivations and actions are all over the place, kidnapping Vale, showing up at her apartment for no real reason, then just leaving, and then kidnapping her again randomly during the climax when he didn't even care that she was there in the first place. These are all story problems. However, Dark Joker lasts for all of his first few scenes, and after that he gets very goofy, and Nicholson chews scenery like gum for the rest of the film. I know some people have a problem with Joker being more comedic in this version, but I really don't. You have to remember it fits most of the characterizations of him up to this point. But I do have a problem with the fact that he is given more screen time than Batman, and there is some truth to the statement that Jack Nicholson is simply playing Jack Nicholson hammed up here. Also, the trademark jackets, goofy thugs such as Bob and helicopters does get a bit silly. But hey, then again, that was Joker more than not in the comics at the time. Kim Basinger is Vicky Vale. She likes bats, she likes Bruce. She sleeps with Bruce, gets kidnapped, rescues, and screams a lot. Not much else to say. Michael Gough as Alfred. I enjoy this Alfred overall, loyal and honest, but he gives Bruce Wayne some of the worst advice in the world, insisting he drop everything and tell everything to Vicky Vale, lets her into the Batcave on a hunch, and pretty much does everything he can to destroy Bruce's secret identity. Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon. He actually does do some things independently, seems to take command and has authority in the film, but gets little screen time, does little much than show up and stare at Batman and then light up the bat signal. And yes, folks, this is the best Commissioner Gordon gets in these films. Yep. Everyone else. Knox is obnoxious but fun, Bob is Bob, and Harvey Dent is pretty cool, and a black Two-Face would have been an interesting idea if he had been kept for the sequels. The visuals. Here is where we start to get really positive. To this day, this is my favourite Batman movie for this. Despite all my problems, the Batsuit, Cave, Gotham, and mostly the Batmobile are all my favourite of any of them. That may be my taste in gothic stuff, but that's my opinion. I think that it is the closest to the comics visually of any of the movies also, and I think that's why some of Batman fans prefer this to even the Nolan films to this day. There are several points in this film where we get some truly classic and stunning visuals that, in concert with the music, make some really great Batman moments. Tim Burton is definitely an art director, and on a whole, I have a problem with his plots and characters, but his visuals are great. Well, most of the time. And speaking of the music, this is where everyone first got to hear of Danny Elfman, and he and Burton became joined at the hip even before Depp and Boehm Carter came along. No bones about it, this is Danny Elfman's best score ever. Everything since seems to be a rip-off or a reaction to this. His signature Batman theme is still to this day the Batman theme, and to be rivaled only by assistant Shirley Walker's work on the animated series, which was in the same vein as this. I hear this music, I think Batman. It's that simple, and along with the visuals, it is the best part of the movie. Joker's beauty products plot is nonsensical to say the least. If he wants to poison Gotham, why not use something like water, which would kill more in hours before Batman and the cops had time to react? Also, how did he replace everyone's hygiene and beauty products anyway? How did he get access to every brand he can, or the one big enough that he uses it? Why make it so complicated with combos if his goal is to kill as many as possible, other than just to give Batman a case to solve? If this was his intention, I would buy it, but it's not. He gets mad when Batman cracks it. I've mentioned this, but why did Joker go after Vicky Vale, other than just because she was the lead female? And it would give him more interaction and connection with Bruce Wayne and Batman. The entire third act, as I covered, is also a jumbled, nonsensical mess. Why did the cops not show up to arrest Joker? Why did Batman come in by the Batwing and miss Joker with every single shot? Hell, even if Batman did kill, I would expect him to be a good shot. How is it that a super long handgun can shoot down a plane? Making the barrel longer does not make the gun more powerful. If he had a bazooka, simple change, it would have made sense. Where did the henchman come from on the rooftop of the cathedral? Joker chose that cathedral at random, and we saw that only he, Vale, and Batman climbed up there. And, oh yeah, he destroyed the stairs. I could go on for a while, but I'll get to the main point that has had everybody debating for 21 years, and that is Joker being the killer of Bruce Wayne's parents. This change was added by Burton, and we are simply left to ask, why? Joker and Batman's relationship is personal enough, and it does not need this if done well. The simple answer is that instead of spending time in the movie to add character depth and a real personal rivalry between the Dark Knight and Joker, they simply added in the revenge cliché to bump up the stakes for the final fight. Hell, even in this film, the fact that Batman dropped Joker in acid, and he might be guilty over it, is a strong enough relationship to explore without this. It is unneeded and simply lazy writing. So, I have pretty much covered this film, and I know a lot of fans out there are either cheering or throwing things at the screen at this point. I know this movie is a sacred cow to many, and a polarising issue for many more, mainly since The Dark Knight came out, but I'm afraid you're going to have to put me in the Nolan camp, friends. But we'll get to that later on. In 1989, this film was a godsend to fans, and it started it all, and frankly without it, nothing else Batman-related, dark, outside the comics would exist, and he simply wouldn't be as huge a deal as he is. For that, we owe a great debt of gratitude. But as a movie, while visually great, it lacks depth and heart, and as a Batman movie, it is missing a lot of marks by a mile, mainly in the last act. But it was way more on the mark than the next movie we're going to cover, and that will be next time with Batman Returns.